Don't forget, ko-fi.com/stopwritingalone is a real simple way to show your support for what's going on here week after week. Hi, everyone. This is Nicole Rivera, and this is the Stop Writing Alone podcast for writers who are looking for their writing community. I know you want to find readers for your work, but I think your first step is to connect with other writers. That's what we're going to do here in the Stop Writing Alone podcast. We'll do writing prompts and other writing group activities, discover online writing communities, learn how to find local writing groups, or how to make your own. Join us as we explore, learn, and write. This week's episode is sponsored by Storymatic Studios, home to the amazing writing prompt games Storymatic Classic and Storymatic Kids, Rememory, and Synapsis. Stay tuned to later in the episode where I'll give you a more in-depth explanation of each of these games and why you need to have these in your writer's toolbox. Go check out thestorymatic.com to get your own today. Hi everyone, this is Nicole Rivera and you're listening to the Stop Writing Alone podcast. This week I have a really special interview for you. In fact, it's like the largest interview I've ever done. It's me and 5 people. It's 5 of the members of the Happy Campers Club that I hosted back in April. It's not the entire Happy Campers Club because I put this together so last minute. Not everybody could make it, but I'm really happy to at least get a piece of the group to give you a taste of what community can look like. Even in this time when we can't meet face to face, we had a really wonderful time in this month of April, coming together all with different writing projects and just saying, I'm here to write. I'm here to support you. I'm here to get support. It was just sort of like my dream of what Stop Writing Alone is all about. I had designed this community endeavor with like great hopes that it would be a wonderful community, and just the right people came in, and it was. So this entire podcast is about Stop Writing Alone. It's about finding your people. It's about working with community, and I can't think of a better way to demonstrate all the power within that than introducing you to the Happy Campers that I got to spend 1 month with, where we all devoted ourselves to our separate writing projects, but got so much more out of it. So here we go. A little tiny taste, and I really wish there was a way that I could bottle it all and show you, but at least let's hear what some of the Happy Campers had to say about their month of April. So I am here with 5 of the Happy Campers from our April session. I've got Tammy Brightweiser, Sam Kimberly, Jamie Angevine, Amy Strong, and Jackie Dana. So we had a whole month together of writing group fun, productivity, stresses, all the good stuff. But I wanted to talk to you guys about like what your experience was. I think it was really interesting that this all landed during the quarantine for us too. So I'm just curious as to how it may have helped you guys through that whole thing. But I guess is there anybody that wants for me to victimize first to begin chatting with? It's hard. I've never done an interview with 5 people at once. I've done 2 at once, but never 5. I didn't think this through.
Well, we're the happiest campers.
You are by far the happiest. And if there was ever a large group that I wanted to sit with and chat with for the interview, this would be it. But I did hear somebody say, I'll go first. I didn't see who it was. I should have known it was Amy.
I like to get things out of the way.
So Amy, I guess a good question to start with is where were you at when you first heard about the Happy Campers, and what made you think like this is something that I think I want to do?
So I have been unofficially writing for like 20 years and have done absolutely nothing with anything that I've written. I've also not kept a schedule. At least that was until the beginning of April. And so I was laid off of my job in November and am doing other things, but I wanted to start writing and actually get into it. And when I got your email about the Happy Campers Club, I was like, okay, well, there's really not a lot of commitment. I have to pay a little money, which means I might actually participate a little bit. So maybe I'll get a little writing done. And that's where I started at when I got the email and why I signed up, just to maybe possibly get a little writing done.
Interesting. And how about the rest of you guys? What was because I agree with that. For me personally, sometimes it is, I've heard that phrase, like the transformation is in the transaction. Sometimes you sign up for something and it's free, so you don't like think twice about it and you're like, it's no big deal. But if you do put a little money towards something, you're like, wait, I paid for this, let me make sure I commit. And I find that it just makes me think about joining or not joining in a way that sometimes I don't. So was that the case for anybody else? Or Tammy, are you waving to me, or Tammy's raising her hand? Okay, go Tammy.
I was trying to nonchalantly like wave to you because it's a weird like thing. I already have a well-established daily writing practice. So yes. Me coming into the Happy Campers was a little bit of different motivation. One, honestly, it was because it was you, and I love everything that you do, and I wanted to support you with that as well. But the other thing that was really intriguing to me, as a serious writer, you had this structure set up for the Happy Campers where there was something that we were going to do every day. And some of them were meetings and some of them were write-ins.
So, hey, I'm going to interrupt Tammy for just 1 second because I want to give you a little snapshot of the plan that I had set up that Tammy's talking about. You may remember because I mentioned this on a previous episode, I was inspired by pencils. I got this package of pencils from a Scribbler box, which is a subscription box created for writers. And it was 5 pencils, and each one had a day of the week on it. And it said on Mondays I plot, on Tuesdays I write. The third pencil said on Wednesdays I drink, on Thursdays I edit. And then the last pencil said, on Fridays, I daydream. And when I pulled out these pencils, really just to plan what I wanted to do for April, I looked at them and I said, wow, to me, this is the perfect writing week, right? To get all of these things in every single week would be amazing. How can I do that? So the plan for the Happy Campers Club was that Mondays we would have plots and plan meeting, which was basically goal setting. Tuesdays were the days of write-ins. I just did 4 one-hour write-ins every single Tuesday, but also left the link open so that anybody could host a write-in if they wanted to from the group. On Wednesdays, the pencil says on Wednesdays I drink, so I decided to make that a coffee hour and sort of like a support group. So we had 2 different hour-long Zoom meetings where we just hung out and talked about what we had accomplished so far, where we were struggling, just all the stuff. And it was really just nice to socialize, especially amid all of this quarantine, stay-at-home stuff. For many of us, it was great to see faces of someone other than the people we were living with. On Thursdays was like the most low-key day and probably the day that needs the most revision. And ironically, that's the one that says I edit. So during April, I just basically shared different revision tips and resources that I had, figuring that everybody was going to be writing this month, so it would be stuff that you would just collect to use for later. And then on Fridays, I daydream. I shared prompts, but then that's also where we got to have a lot of fun. We started doing writing prompt parties, and it was my thinking that day would be about creating, but also thinking about where our careers go next. So Tammy, who's speaking right now, did host an event where she spoke about all of her submission process and her 100 rejections project, but she'll talk about that again in a minute. So let me go back to Tammy so she can talk about what else she found in the Happy Campers Club when she committed to this daily project.
But that type of level of commitment to a schedule like that as a small group for that small amount of time made me think that I'm going to find some writers who are just as serious about this process as I am. And I was hoping to connect. So it was more of a community piece for me, and hoping to find that. And then what I did find is a bunch of people that I had never met previously. And I think Jamie had said it in one of our meetings too, was that it's a whole different thing to talk to somebody who is at the same level of commitment and then you can learn from within this group, which I felt like I did. And then this group also gave me the opportunity to kind of do a dry run on my submission class that piggybacked onto my 100 rejections. So that was an added layer that I didn't even see coming. That was a really welcome gift, and I was glad to be open to that.
Which I might add was an awesome gift for the rest of us.
Absolutely.
That was a really good session.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, Tammy, you bring up a really great point about like what type of people showed up. I mean, we've spoken about it a number of times in April about how we feel sort of blessed about the community that did come together. It was a group of people that were ready to get to work and do some writing and support one another. So that was very, very cool. And yeah, thank you again so much for your Friday share with us, because everybody's still using it and talking about it. You know, we're always referring back to where are the files on the Facebook page so that we can get our cover. I think Heather needed a cover letter just recently or something. So that was amazing. Jamie, how about you for joining Happy Campers? What was the onus? What was finally you said, this is it. This is what I'm gonna do with April.
I mean, it's pretty similar to Tammy. It's, I have a writing practice I do every day, and I'm part of a writing group, but but I was kind of looking for people that were on a similar, like I said, kind of dedication and just very much, I guess everyone's serious, but very much into it and into writing. And honestly, just wanted to find more people like you, Nicole, because I was like, oh, that's great. And I'm thinking, well, if people sign up, then you can find other people that like you can talk to and share with and like learn from and kind of commiserate and kind of be like, well, does anyone else have this issue? And you're like, oh my God, half the people have the issue. It's not just me. And and then I didn't even know what it would be. And then I saw, oh, there's going to be structure. There's going to be meetings and different things to do. So I liked that there was specific things. It wasn't just like, let's write and then talk, it was like, let's work on this. Let's set goals. Goal setting was good, even though I don't think I ever did by the end of the week what I said I would do the previous week, but I was always doing something. So
you always had something to celebrate by the end of the week, even if it wasn't the thing you thought it was going to be at the beginning of the week. So.
But yeah, so that was, and I was very, very grateful that I did. So.
What Jamie's talking about here is one of the things that I loved about our Monday meetings, and that was that we took the opportunity to set weekly goals for what each of us wanted to do for our writing. And like Jamie said, a lot of times we didn't accomplish that thing that we said we wanted to. And I would say that typically if you're writing on your own and you set a goal for yourself and you don't accomplish that goal, you start to feel a little crummy about it. And, it could turn into this vicious circle of defeatism. But with our regular meetings and coming together, we could all just celebrate each other and say, okay, you didn't do the thing that you thought you wanted to do this week, but what did you accomplish? And many times we were side by side seeing it. So even if we forgot, we'd say, well, what about the thing you wrote on Tuesday? You were writing like crazy. That was amazing. this is just another argument for the benefit of writing in community, that there is, of course, the accountability when you set goals, but then there's also those reminders of all of the things that you are accomplishing, even when you think you're not getting your stuff done. I loved that we continue to be there for each other in this way throughout the entire month. And Jamie reminded me of that as she mentioned that just now. So let's go back to Jamie now. Yeah, I mean, I've said it to you guys before. I was also and still am incredibly grateful for everything that we got from each other in the group. And as I said at the beginning, I think the timing of it was something that none of us could have predicted, that having this community in a time when we were kind of forbidden to even go outside to meet with other people was very helpful to me. And to have it like scheduled, like, oh, I have to see everybody on Monday, I have to see everybody on Wednesday, because it's one of those things that I could have just let slip by the wayside. So I don't know. Jackie, how are you finding the meeting up with people throughout the month? I know you have so much other stuff going on. You're still working from home and everything. So how did this differ from what you were doing with all of your work stuff and all the other meetings that you had going on?
I think, a lot of other people have said, I'm working on the 52-week short stories that you're running, right? So I'm doing the weekly writing for that, but then I'm also doing freelance articles, and I'm trying to finish a novel, and I have other novels that are like floating around, right? So I have all these writing projects that I'm trying to accomplish. And one of the problems I have is sort of committing to getting some of the things done that don't have to be done, like the freelance writing, whatever articles I'm writing for the different people I write for, there's a deadline and that's got to get done. But when it comes to my own stuff, that's harder.
Hey, it's me again. I just want to take a moment and recognize what Jackie's talking about here and have you stop and think if this is you. I know it's me. A lot of times we have all these great things that we want to do for ourselves, but they get like pushed to the bottom of our to-do list because of all the things that we, as Jackie said, quote unquote, have to do. And it almost becomes easier. It becomes easier to do the have-tos. And then these things, these big dreams that we have, never get done. They never get the time that they deserve. So I love that Jackie took this opportunity to show up in the Happy Campers Club to give herself that time. She committed to saying, I'm going to show up for the stuff that I want to do. I'm going to create these deadlines within this group for my projects. And she discusses how sometimes that meant showing up to the write-ins to work on those projects. And sometimes that meant showing up to the write-ins to do the have-tos, to get them out of the way so that her mind was free to sort of explore and daydream about these projects that she had not been able to give the time to. There are so many wonderful things that happen when we connect with our community. One is to connect with other people, but sometimes connecting with community is important because it is the one way that we can show up for ourselves. And that was some lesson that I learned over and over again this April in Happy Campers Club. So I love that Jackie took a moment to say it for herself as well. Let's get back to hear what she has to say.
Story challenge has been good because that's still giving me a deadline and giving me a schedule, but it's just been hard to feel motivated and feel inspired sometimes. And so, and certainly the novel has just been like, whatever. So I joined, I don't even know why I joined it at first, other than that I knew you from doing the the 52-week challenge, right? Like, you know, and then from the podcast. So, you know, I think I just saw it and said, oh, what the hell? But I signed up for a lot of these things and don't always follow through with them. I don't know if other people do that, but like there's another Facebook group that does writing, and they have like an annual thing that you sign up for, and then you schedule like each week what you write, and I forget the name of it. And I signed up for that last year and didn't really keep going with that. So
it's funny because I was going to ask that, because I've done that too, where I've signed up for a thing and then the day comes and I'm like, whatever, life, you know?
And I never really felt very connected to it. But I saw this and I was like, well, I like how you show up and you do the thing every week. And so it feels a little bit more connected. So I thought I'd give it a try. And what I found was, again, we had the whole quarantine thing. And so it gave me a community of people to talk to and just kind of interact with on, you know, several times a week. And I felt more inspired and more motivated to work on my own stuff and to not only get those weekly stories done, but to maybe get some of the other writing done. And there were a couple of the write-ins, at least a couple of them, where I was working on freelance stuff. So it wasn't always, you know, the creative stuff, but if I got that done, then I had more time then in the evening or whatever to do my other stuff. So I think over the course of the month, I was able to get back into a little bit more of a regular writing practice on my own stuff and kind of think of bigger picture things that I needed to do, and like the big magic, whatever she calls it, the podcast. I started listening to that, got ideas. And, you know, so even now we're into May, I'm still feeling like some of that is still churning. Like last night I spent a whole long time. I cleared off a table. I basically made my coffee house at home setup. Like when I leave the house to get work done, I made that in my spare room. And I sat down with like 3 notebooks and all these things in my iPad and like, okay, what's going on with the end of this novel? And I really worked through it. And I don't know that I would have felt motivated to do that had I not been thinking about some of this stuff over the past month or so, right? Like, I wasn't necessarily always writing on that project, but just this being around other writers and being inspired and, you know, doing
constantly in that space,
right, doing the storymatic stuff and all the other things we did. I think it just kind of kickstarted a lot of my creativity and got me a little less intimidated by this novel, which has been problematic. I mean, the ending, I realized last night what I have, there's pieces that work, but a lot of it's problematic. But now at least I feel like I have the courage to kind of tackle it and deal with it.
That's awesome.
That was
well, you brought up 2 things. One is storymatic, and I'm going to come back to that. But the other was that you used the time for various writing projects, which made me think of Sam. Sam, you came into this with a goal of wanting to do your poetry, but also work on a speech that you were writing on. So how did this help you? See, like the whole thing here is, if we're talking to the Stop Writing Alone community, I guess what I really want to like share with everyone is that, yeah, these are all things that we all could have been doing on our own, because we all have the same amount of time now, right? Whether we're working from home or, you know, just juggling homeschooling and all of that stuff, we made time in our day to get through various projects. But I think all of us here can say that that was easier to do because we had community than if we just had that same month of April with that. Although I know Tammy's hardcore. She always shows up for her writing no matter what. But Sam, I know that we had spoken about this. So do you mind sharing how you found it helpful to be within community for getting your writing done in April?
Yeah, sure. So I have been struggling with my poetry and my writing because, I mean, all of you on the, you know, in the Stop Writing Alone community know me from my conversations about Medium, and Medium has not taken kindly to poetry these days. They're not paying out what they used to pay for poetry, and I hate to say that is causes me to change anything about my creative process, but in some ways it does, because it was bringing in good money at one point and then now it's not. So I have to think about how I'm spending my time and how I'm using that resource, because I do need to bring in money doing something. So that, that kind of started the block, and then it kind of developed and progressed with time and reevaluating my priorities. But writing poetry is still really important to me. So I wanted to use this time to get reinvigorated and start writing more poetry. And that absolutely happened. And I think it has to do partly with the prompts, but also with writing in community. Those write-ins that we did every Tuesday, Nicole did 4 write-ins with us. One was very early in the morning that I never attended. One was too late at night for me.
No one ever. I just want to call you all out. No one ever joined me at 7 a.m. That was my pajama write-in. Solitary.
Well, you're always welcome to join me at my 7 a.m. run.
No. You see, that's the difference. There you go.
I was writing, but just not on the video with you. I was in spirit, but I was writing at that time, but nobody wants to see me that early.
I saw you, Nicole, on
everyone was watching
Zoom.
Me.
I saw you on the Zoom call for that early call a couple of times, through one eye open in bed, and I thought to myself, she's nuts, and I turned it off and went back to sleep. So no, I am not a morning person. I'm really more of a midday person. So those 2 midday write-ins really worked out for me, and I got a lot of work done during those 2 midday write-ins. So yes, that just seeing people writing that are, we're being timed. So we go for these sprints, and it makes it so much more productive because I'm not distracted by my phone. I'm not distracted by what's going on around me. I have 15 minutes and I have to get as much done as I can in those 15 minutes. And seeing it's kind of social psychology. When you see, it's group mentality. When you see other people writing and you know that they're there with you, that helps you be more productive too. And I have to say, and you'd mentioned this, and I don't know if we're going to get back to it, but you, Nicole, put in so much work and value to this group. I can't even, you need to charge more next time. This is so amazing.
Agreed.
What you did. It was worth so much and so valuable for all of us. I would pay more money to do it again.
And I would like to interject that on a walk with my husband, we were talking about my writing, and I told him that we were thinking about doing it again and that I would pay for it again. And he didn't even bat an eyelash and said, I think you should. So it's just knowing that he's supportive, and he didn't even ask me how much it was. He was just like, you need to pay for it, because he could see that I was on a schedule, that I was getting writing done. I'm happier when I'm writing, even though what I write isn't happy. It's still like I'm a happier person when the stuff that's in my head can get out on paper.
Well, I mean, walking around with all those murders in your head, Amy, you would have to be happier once they were out.
I'm telling you, I am probably the most optimistic, happiest person you will ever meet, but yet only in poetry does happy come out. Otherwise, everyone's dying. That's all I'm going to say. Everyone's dead.
And I would agree. I got out of it something a little bit different, maybe in some ways, but just having people to report to or to show up for, and hearing everybody else, it's that collective energy, even though we're not in the same room. Everybody else is writing and they're doing stuff and they're being creative, and I can do that too, right? I mean, I've been writing since I was in high school. It's not that I'm new to this, but sometimes it feels like a slog, especially if you have a big project, and, not being completely alone. I mean, hence the podcast name, I guess, right? The group name. But I think that is such a helpful piece of it. And I believe that, writers we work alone, but we don't need to do everything alone. And I think that a lot of people miss that, you can't write my book for me unless like we're co-authors or something, right? But I have to do the work by myself, but that doesn't mean I have to be in isolation all the time that I'm writing. And so I think that helps a lot with motivation and inspiration and getting out of your head a little bit and being able to kind of take that step backwards. And then having people, offering to help or, can you read this or whatever it is that, you might ask people for. But, even if you're not, just I think having that space is really valuable. And I would definitely do it again and pay you more money.
Well, thank you. But I want to just say for myself personally, that is exactly what inspired me to do this and what the whole Stop Writing Alone thing is about. As Jackie said, no one can write my stories for me, but for whatever reason, and maybe it's just like human nature, having community around me as I do so makes it go a little bit smoother, makes me feel more motivated to do it, even when I'm reaching points of a block or anything of that nature. So it was always just so great to show up for you guys, because as I've told you a number of times, it was like full circle. It was also, it always felt very selfish, because I was like, I'm showing up because they're going to be there, and because they're there, I'm going to get more done. Yay. So it was a really great month for me in terms of productivity, getting my stories done on time, submitting some stuff, doing lots of revisions that I was resistant to. But we also had like a couple of fun things. We've mentioned Storymatic in passing. We had, just to give the groundwork to anybody that's listening that doesn't know, I think I interviewed Brian right before April started. The interview didn't go live until midway through the month, but I had just interviewed him, and that's the creator of Storymatic, and said something to him at the end of the interview, like, I'd love you to come over to Stop Writing Alone and do some stuff. And the silly man said anytime, not knowing that I would call him on that. And so we had 2 different experiences with him. How did that help you guys? Because it wasn't something that I necessarily had in the works, planned ahead of time that I was going to do, but I saw an opportunity and I jumped on it, and he said yes. And I have all my own opinions about what that did for me creatively, but I'm just curious from you guys if anybody has any input about the sessions that we had with Brian Mooney and what we did. One week we did Storymatic, and another week we did Synapsis with him.
Well, I will say that I do not like performing. I do not like being put on the spot, and to have to write stories like in a very short amount of time and then read them. Obviously I didn't have to, but I did. I chose to participate. And even the Synapsis one where I had to like be on the spot to come up with a story, and I went first because, whatever. That's so unlike me, and it's really terrifying. But it was a good experience because I think you learn stuff, and you realize that nobody's stuff is perfect and really brilliant the first time around, unless you're Sam. And her poetry was great. But you can do stuff quickly, and, you don't have to agonize over it. That first draft isn't always terrible. So, I liked being kind of put out of my comfort zone on that. And I thought that was really fun. Plus, I really liked the products, and I bought them both. So
Jackie, just out of curiosity, since that's not typically you, do you think it was helpful that we didn't do it right away? Do you think if I had led with like April 1st, we're doing this, would you have not showed up to that?
Probably.
Okay.
I think being in a group where I knew like who everybody was and where they were with writing, and I didn't feel like I was with a whole bunch of award-winning authors, but I also wasn't with a whole bunch of beginning writers. I was like, okay, this is my tribe. I don't feel like anybody's gonna pick on me or get really upset if I make a comment to them or whatever. I think that was good. So getting to know people first made it a lot easier.
Yeah. I think we all, I'm speaking for everybody, but I think we did feel sort of safe with everybody in terms of all that creative vulnerability and that type of thing. Because
I feel like I should say something.
Go ahead, Sam. Sam's going to defend her greatness.
And I think I had a kind of unique experience with the Storymatic situation, because I am the only person this round in our Happy Campers group that is not a story writer. I do not write fiction. I do not write stories. And I gave it a shot because I showed up to this fancy Storymatic party and I really had no idea what I was getting myself into. I tried to write a story and I tried for like maybe 5 minutes, if not less. And
Was it Chad? Was it Chad that you hated?
I hated Chad.
You hated Chad.
I hated Chad. I made up a character. I saw him in my mind. He walked by like a screen, kind of like someone walking by on your screen. I could see him and I couldn't stand him and I didn't want to write anything about him. And so then I stopped and I wrote a poem based on the prompt that was given for a story. So I kind of just transformed it for myself and it worked out just fine. But it was really nerve-wracking for me. I tried really hard not to read what I had written because I didn't want to be disrespectful of what was happening for everybody else. Not because I was not confident in what I had written, but because I had just gone with it and made it my own thing. And I felt nervous and I didn't want to be disrespectful to the situation that was happening. So that got a little dicey for a second, but everyone was really kind and enjoyed my story of what I tried to do with Chad. And then I shared my poem, and I have to say I'm so glad that I did, because
I think we were all very glad that you did. Yeah.
So Brian shared some, because he's not just a fiction writer, he's a nonfiction writer, he's a poet, he teaches everything. So I read my poem. I'll just share this with you guys too, so that you know. I read my poem out loud, and he said, "Okay, now read it backwards." And that blew my mind because I am not a trained poet. I just do my thing. And that changed everything. Now I have another tool for me to use to edit my poetry and think about it in a different way. So that changed a lot for me in the way that I write, and definitely inspired additional perspectives and new creativity.
Yeah, I think Brian showing up for us was amazing because he really showed up for us. He did not just say, "Here's my game and go ahead and play it." He led the game, and then all of that kind of feedback that he gave. I mean, he blew all our minds when he asked you to read it backwards, because I will challenge anyone who's listening, if you've written a poem, and Brian claims it can be done with short stories as well, although I have not done this yet, that he always reads it backwards. And as soon as Sam started reading her poem backwards, like all of us got chills, and we were like, "What the heck is that? It's amazing." Not to say that it wasn't amazing in the first way, but it just really packs a solid punch. Hey guys, it's me, and I'm stepping in for a minute to talk a bit about our sponsor of the week, which is Storymatic Studios. We've talked a little bit about it in the interview, and we're going to get back to it in a minute. But Storymatic is a fantastic company run and created by Brian Mooney. Brian Mooney created all of these writing games in his time as a writing teacher and also as a writer himself. And I interviewed him a couple of episodes ago. I'll put a link to the episode in the show notes so that you can hear a little bit about where Brian came up with the idea for all these different games. But the games that you can get at Storymatic.com are Storymatic Classic, Storymatic Kids, Rememory, and Synapsis. I love all these games. Whether you are a fiction writer or a memoirist or a poet, or you are just looking to challenge yourself, to dedicate yourself to story, there is something here for everyone. The Storymatic Classic and Storymatic Kids are your traditional story creation games. So we're talking about fiction, we're talking about cards You pull cards to develop a main character, and then you pull other cards that take that main character into a story. And it seems to be sort of endless, this game, not only in the number of cards that come in the box, but also as you read the instructions to the game, there are various types of games that you can play to sort of like push the envelope a little bit this way or that way, whether you're playing in a group or you're playing on your own just to get new story. Storymatic Classic just delivers over and over again. I play it online with the Stop Writing Alone community. I play it in the Staten Island Writers Group. It's one of the tools that I bring with me to every month's writing prompt meeting, and it is a thing that I play just on my own. I open up a notebook and I start pulling cards and I write. I've also played it with friends and family. It is a fun game if you have people in your life that like to create story. The other game that is fantastic for sharing with family and friends is Rememory. And this is also a call out to anybody who likes to write creative nonfiction or memoir. Rememory is a game that taps into your memories. Again, another card game. You draw 3 cards. One is the focal point, the person that you're going to be writing about. So you could pull out a card that says you, and you're writing about one of your own memories. Or you can pull out a card that says brother or sister, friend, grandparent. I mean, you get the idea. It's a person, right, that you're going to have a memory about. So you pull the card of a person. You pull the card of a time. So like a season of life. It could be spring. It could be work. It could be school. So it's takes this person, it puts them in a time, and then the final card takes you into a specific memory. I love these cards. I love the design of the game and that structure that we begin with the person, we get to the time, and then we dive into the memory. There has not been one single time where I have pulled 3 cards in a row and not stumbled straight into a memory. I might not have always wanted to write that memory, but it is designed so well that you are pulled directly into a thought. And whether or not you're playing this game, like I said, with friends and family and just sharing memories, speaking them out and sharing them among friends and family, or you're using this as a writing tool, I think you're going to love this. We also have some people in the in Stop Writing Alone, like Sam Kimberly just spoke about, using these cards to write poetry. And it's really quite beautiful, the stuff that has been coming out of these prompts. So Rememory, fantastic game. And the other game, Synapsis. This is the newest game from Storymatic, and it was one that I just started to learn and got to play with Brian Mooney during Happy Campers Club. And it is such a cool game that is so different from most of the prompts that I do, because you are not being asked to write a story. You're being asked to write a sentence. And then the game challenges you to create the story around that sentence by asking questions that dive deep. It's really steeped in like all of the principles of like improv. You just have to constantly say yes and rededicate yourself to this bit of creation that you made in this sentence. In fact, I am going to hand this over. We're going to go back into the interview, and you're going to hear Amy Strong talking about her experience and what she loved about playing Synapsis, because you don't have to just hear it from me. Any of these people that have been in the Happy Campers Club all have their own Storymatic experience, and I think everyone has bought at least one of the games and owns one. So head on over to thestorymatic.com to check out the games for yourself. But here's Amy to talk about our experience with Synapsis during the month of April.
No, what I was going to say is I think the cool thing about the Synapsis is that, first of all, we all got the same prompts. Not one of our stories was the same. And the cool thing about it is that the questions that came up were like, we had to think of our story now. Like we had to, and there was no like, well, I think maybe, like you had to come up with a solid answer. And I think it's great in the whole process of making you move forward. And you might go back and change it, but at least it gets you into the next step and not sitting there with 5 sheets of half-started stories because you didn't know where to take them. And everyone else is asking the questions. So they maybe ask a question that you wouldn't have even have put in your story. And then when you answer it, you realize, okay, now that's part of the character. I've got to go that direction. Like tattoos.
Yeah, that whole, the whole drive to committing to the story in Synapsis was really, really a great lesson, not only in those stories that we created, but like moving forward. Like the next time I wrote something, I was like, oh, okay, so what if I really commit to this? What if I really commit to this in the way that I did in Synapsis? And then I'm not wavering and thinking twice about things. I'm just going to move forward. So yeah, it was really, really cool. I really appreciate that whole experience.
I think one of the things I really appreciated about Brian's sessions too is that, I mean, we had gotten together a couple times just to do writing prompts. I mean, that's part of what you do anyway, Nicole, but
right.
But he really treated it like it was a mini class because I did not know until you interviewed him on the podcast that Synapsis actually came from a class that he taught and these little games and exercises that he did with his students. And his students kept saying, why isn't that a game? Like, why isn't that the card? I mean, you could use these cards for a variety of different ways, but to actually be led through the process of how it was designed was really, really interesting to me. So that was really an added layer. It was like another class in addition to what we'd already signed up for. I mean, that was amazing.
Yeah, I was really excited that worked out for us because it was so much more than even I had thought it would be. It was really, really quite fantastic.
He was selling the product. It was like the whole concept of how he does stories, which was, I mean, I really felt like we were given an experience with him. It was not a commercial. It was really.
Yeah, I mean, he was geeking out just as hard with us. He was like so in love with story and the process. And he's definitely our people without question. So it was like happy camper honoree for sure.
Well, like he wrote stories. Like he didn't just sit there and wait. Like he had a story to share every time it was a share time.
That's true too.
He pulled his story up and he goes, okay, here's what I wrote. So he like participated all the way. He didn't just facilitate it. It's awesome.
Yeah, he was in it. He was having a great time. I loved it. Loved it. So cool. So we had an entire month. We all set various goals of what we were going to do. So what did you accomplish? What did you accomplish? Was it a thing? Look at me. Now I'm sad that I'm not sharing the video. Because I can say I'll start just to set the bar nice and low for you. Okay. I showed up. I showed up for my writing in a more consistent way on all levels of my writing. For the first time in a long time. What I mean by that is that like I'm trying to remember who it was I was talking to in Happy Campers. We were talking about like you get Tammy, I think it was you. You get to a point where you create, and you're not going any further from there. And I'm real good at that. I can show up and create, but then it's sometimes when I need to revise or rededicate myself to a story to really polish it up. Those are always the aspects of my writing that I had found in the past I would let waver. I would just go and shiny new project and start something else. I found for this month, because each week I would say I really want to get this particular story to a certain point, I was showing up, not just creating like in the write-ins, but then throughout the week, I would show up to the older projects to make sure that they were also reaching a certain level that I wanted. There's family nonsense in the background, quarantine time. But so that's my great accomplishment, is that I think I found a more balanced approach to my writing in this last month that I really hadn't before. So I'm just curious if anybody else found a change from what they were doing before to now, or if you did accomplish like finishing certain projects that you thought you would never like get over the hump of, whatever your goals were, or what you did finally reach the finish line with.
Well, my goal was to try to get through this book and try to read through it and kind of go through another draft round. And as of last night, I did. So I didn't make it through the end of April, but I mean, it was, a little over a week over. I mean, it's a big project. It's not done, but I got all the way through it, got to the end, which was probably why it took so long, is because I was dragging my feet because I knew it was broken. And last night I looked at it. So, I feel like, I needed a little bit of emotional support, even though I didn't necessarily work on it throughout the month all the time. I did sometimes, and then, like I say, I was doing other things too. I mean, I'm writing like 4 different things in any given moment. It's like some people read 5 things at a time. I write 5 things at a time, right? So, yeah, I mean, I felt like having the community support, the emotional support, helped me get through something that this has been going. I think I wrote the first draft in 2016, and I was looking through some of my notes last night from 2017. And so I'm like, this has been a long time project. So, so it was really helpful for that for me.
That's awesome. And just to hear that you're even at the finish line right now is amazing, because I know the struggle that you've been going through with it. That's huge.
It's not finished, but I made another.
I think there was a very like solid brick wall in the middle there for you that we had talked about a couple of times, that I felt like at a certain point I could see it starting to fall for you. And I was like, finally, we're chipping away at this thing. So, yeah, it sounds like you got past it.
Done, right? Like, I can imagine it being a complete novel now for the first time in a while. Like, okay, if I can figure out this ending and then do another pass, because there's a few things that I found along the way, character stuff or little scenes that I need to add, I think maybe I can have a complete draft that I can give to whoever, some beta readers. I mean, I think I'm almost there. So, and I haven't been almost there in, 4 years. So
yeah, it's huge. That's huge, Jackie. I'm really happy for you. That's a good one. It's a really good one. Awesome.
Okay. So, for me, if I'm speaking my truth, I had no real goals when I joined this. I read your email and it was going to have write-ins, and, oh, look, she's going to give us some stuff I might be able to use later. Yeah. Okay, fine. I'll do it. And then I think it wasn't even until the second week that I was like, oh, wait a minute. Isn't there something I'm supposed to be doing with this writing group that I joined? So like I missed like the whole first week and had no clue what was going on. And once I got into it, the community that's been built, the support that we have now for, the people that have been showing up. Like even now I'm looking at the screen and I'm going, oh, where's Heather? Like, because she's always in the group. And for me, for what I've accomplished without having a list of goals, I submitted my first contest in 10 years, which was yay.
I just want to note that the entire screen just lit up with people clapping. Just go ahead.
So I submitted my first contest. I have a group of short stories that I've started writing that I've decided I'm actually going to put together as like an anthology of all of them. And whether or not I'm only going to do just the 30 I'm writing in May, or if I'm going to make it bigger, I haven't decided. But I now time block for writing every day. I find that if I don't write, at the end of the day, I'm actually really drained, and I didn't really have a very good day because I didn't get writing in. I find that on Saturdays and Sundays when I have more free time, I want to just read or write. That's all I want to be doing now, which is a far cry from, I've always said I wanted to do it all the time, but I never actually took the time to do it. And I've gotten more comfortable at sharing what I've written with without being too scared to hear what people have to say, and being open and not being worried about what I write and how people are going to take it. Because, I mean, you guys know people die when I write stuff. It's the way it happens. And like a poem I wrote last week was about abuse. I have never been abused in my entire life. This stuff just comes out. And so getting past the point of that's not me, I better not put it on paper, and just writing it has been really big for me. And I'm super excited to like see where it's going. And I now have 2 books that short stories, I can't get them to end. So I'm now gonna have 2 books that I'm working on as I'm working on my short stories. Whereas before it was just, oh yeah, I was gonna write, I guess I'll do it tomorrow. But now it's like, I have to write. And so what started with she's gonna give us some cool stuff I might be able to use later, has turned into, wait, did I write today? Have I written? I already wrote twice today. Is it okay if I write a 3rd time? Like it's been a really neat journey for me, and I'm super excited to see where this all goes.
That is flippin' amazing. No, that's really that's my whole, like when I did the goal sheet, it was always like, this is the thing I say I want to do, but I want to make sure I celebrate all the things I did anyway, because there might be some things I didn't think about. And that is like the perfect, like you didn't know that this was a thing that was going to come out of it. And what a huge thing to celebrate. Oh, that is awesome, Amy. Really, really good stuff. I love it. I love it. So I want to thank you guys all for coming and just giving us all giving the people out there listening to Stop Writing Alone a little snippet of what was some of the awesome that we experienced together in April. Is there anything else that you want to share? I do want to give everybody a chance to share like their links and everything like that. But is there anything else that you think I missed in terms of the Happy Campers Club?
It's nothing that you missed, but just for me, like it helped me, just the community of people, and even just kind of talking through kind of some of the stuff in my head to be like, I was already writing, so it wasn't like, oh gosh, I want to get back to this thing I want to do, but kind of getting in touch with like that one week when we were talking, and it was like, I said it was like writing therapy and being like, oh my gosh, like stop fighting the things that I already like doing, but somehow thought it wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. And then being like, there is no supposed to, it should be what brings you joy. And then I was like, oh, I really like that. So I will do more of that. So, and just not being afraid to, Amy, like you said, it's like, I write about crazy stuff sometimes, and people are like, you seem so normal. Well, no, I don't probably, but like, where is this coming from? And it's like, well, so it's like, if you go dark sometimes, if you go totally, fanciful, whatever comes out of you, it's like, that's meant to come out of you. So it's like, just express yourself, be creative, and it's not going to be wrong, so that's kind of, and having that support of having other people be like, yes, go for it. Not, I mean, of course, hey, you should be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm awesome no matter what, but it totally helps to be in a community of other people that feel the same way and are all talking about it. And then you're like, oh yes, so that's, but regardless of anything else, like that state of like mind and state of like, I don't know, just that creative energy in me, that was probably the thing that shifted the most. So it was great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that nails it too. We did have a lot of like writer therapy sessions where we were all talking through those different, our voice and what should we be writing, what shouldn't we be writing, how it gets heard out there, and what does it say about who we are as people, as writers, as everything. Yeah, really, that was another huge thing for me to help you see that what you're writing is okay, and more than okay. It's the thing, if it lights you up, it's enough. That's huge, huge. So I guess let's just take a moment to let everybody know where they can find you guys and where you might be sharing some of your writing right now, or any of the other awesome things that you are doing. I guess I'll call you guys out in the order I see you on my screen. Tammy, where can people find you?
You can find me at Medium if you search Tammy Breitweiser, Breitweiser. Also, if you Google The Accidental Inspirationalist, you will find me. My Twitter and my blog will come up there as well. Lots of places to find. And Twitter, you can always find me. I'm probably the most on there at @TLBreit.
Excellent. And I will put all of the stuff in the show notes, and also link to Tammy's interview here on Stop Writing Alone a couple of episodes ago. So if I'm going down in my little Brady Bunch squares here, that brings up Sam. Kimberly, where can people find you?
Well, people can find me on Medium, but not as frequently anymore, because I have been inspired by this group to start publishing in other places, which is very exciting for me. So I am still on Medium, but I'm just not there as much. And I'm working on developing more of a LinkedIn presence. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Sam Kimberly on LinkedIn. And if you would like to, I would love for you to join the Creative Life Scholars community, where actually everyone in this group is a part of the CLS community too. And it is a community for all creatives. So writers, and if you are multi-talented, everyone is included in that group.
Yes, Sam's CLS group is pretty amazing, and you're doing regular interviews live on what time, what day can people tune into your interviews with various creatives?
Right, yeah. So Tuesdays, I do live interviews with all sorts of creatives, writers. I just interviewed a makeup artist. I interviewed a book coach. So, and the one for next week she's a crafter. She does sewing and Cerakote. So I'm excited for that.
Excellent. Awesome. And Jamie, where can people find you?
At the moment, I have an account on Medium with like a handful of things there, so I'm fairly new to that. So, yeah, that's the only place I'm is under Jamie Angevine. So, yeah.
Okay, awesome. And Amy, how about you? Where can we find you?
So I too, because of this group, have a Medium page that I've only posted a couple of things on, but it's a start. You can find me in my other life. I'm under #RescuingRealtor. And you can also find me under Miss Daisy, and that's DAIZEE. On all things Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn under my name, Amy Strong. But those are going to be other creative outlets that I do. I'm working on my writing outlets. So right now it's just on Medium.
Very cool. Awesome. And Jackie, where can everyone find you?
Well, I have my business page is watercolormoon.com. So, like watercolor paintings, moon, like the moon in the sky. And that's where I basically promote my freelance writing and editing. I do blog and nonfiction book editing freelance. And then I publish on Medium, and I have stuff, my portfolio and my sort of other stuff is at jackiedana.com. And that's where I have a link to my book 1 of the series that I'm trying desperately to finish book 2 of. So, if you want to read articles or some of my fiction, I have a bunch of it on Medium, and I have some of that linked on my main page. So if you go to one of those 2 websites, you'll find me.
Awesome. Thank you guys so very much, as always, for showing up always for me. It helps me so much. And I will definitely be seeing you. I don't know if again this week, but I'll definitely be having another write-in. Oh, I'm experimenting. I may be experimenting with an Instagram write-in this week. You will be told of this to see if there's something that could be done there.
Instagram right in.
So you can go live on Instagram, just like I go live on Facebook. So I'm like, can I make this work? I'm going to see. And you guys will be the guinea pigs. Or anyone else that happens to be on Instagram at that moment. So, but otherwise, yeah, we'll definitely meet up again next week. But I want to thank you all for coming here and just sharing a little bit about what the Happy Campers Club was for you and for all of us this April. And we will be back in business in June because I miss it already. Amy's face like, yes. I'm sure you can imagine since I've been torturing you with write-ins in between. But thank you guys. Well, that was just a tiny snapshot of what April encompassed for a group of us. I couldn't even get everybody from the Happy Campers into this call because I did it so last minute. But everything that I do here at Stop Writing Alone is to try to underscore the importance of finding your people, getting together in community for the sake of your craft, for the sake of your writing, for the sake of your passion. And as much as I say that and I speak it and I hope for it, it was quite something to experience it firsthand in this way during the month of April. I hope you got a little taste of how wonderful this could be, how you could be doing this right now. This is such an opportunity to connect with people all over the world on your computer, using Zoom, using Microsoft Teams, whatever. There's so many different tools out there at our disposal. But please don't hesitate to join us and Stop Writing Alone when I'm doing live events. These are the people that are out there waiting for you to share your journey with, to share your writing with, to share your fears with, and your hopes and your dreams. It's a safe space. It is all I ever want, is a safe space for all of us to create in. And this is one solid, very good group of people that happen to gather for the Happy Campers Club. But it's all over Stop Writing Alone. So thank you, as always, for listening. Thank you for your patience and bearing with me on my week off last week. If you subscribe to the newsletter, you know that I took 1 week off of the podcast because I did have a loss in my family due to COVID. And, I'm dealing with it. And again, community has been there to support me in that, in the strangeness of that during this time. But I'm back. We're back getting into the groove. There will be more live events in the Stop Writing Alone Facebook group. And as I said during the interview, the Happy Campers Club will be back in June. So if it sounds like something that you might want to join in on, just stay tuned. Definitely subscribe to the Stop Writing Alone email newsletter, and you can do that at stopwritingalone.com. There'll be a pop-up and you just give your email, because that's probably where the news will first come out. But in the meantime, there will be a write-in on Tuesday evening, Eastern Time. It's the regular Staten Island writing group write-in that happens, the monthly one. And since I can't do that in person, it will be virtual and everyone will be invited. So you'll see the notification and the links for that on the Stop Writing Alone Facebook group. Or again, if you subscribe to the newsletter, you will get an email about that. And as the Happy Campers know, you'll probably get that email Tuesday morning. Because I like to do things last minute. Anyway, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, this Friday will be a brand new writing prompt for you on the NV Rivera YouTube page. And I would like to thank our sponsor this week, which is Storymatic Studios, not just for sponsoring this episode, but for all that Brian Mooney has done for the story nerds out there like me to help us create and challenge each other and have fun and dedicate ourselves to story. Do me a favor, head on over to thestorymatic.com. Check out these games. Check out Storymatic on Instagram. You'll get, a taste of what is going on, because Brian does share, he pulls cards from the different games, and then you can sort of use them as a prompt. But I promise you do one or two of those and you're just going to want to buy up the game. And again, heading over to the live events in Stop Writing Alone. A lot of times we're doing some of these prompts, so it's hard to play and not want a box of your own. So again, thestorymatic.com is the website, and I love that Brian and his team pack their own boxes, and a lot of times they'll throw in an extra goodie for you. But really, really great stuff. And honored to know Brian and to share in some story fun with him. But that is all for this week. Have a fantastic week. Happy writing. Stay safe. I will talk to you next Thursday. Before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the Stop Writing Alone podcast wherever you're listening to this episode today. Then connect with us on Facebook at Stop Writing Alone Facebook page, or in the Stop Writing Alone with Nicole Rivera Facebook group. Check Instagram or Twitter, where I'm at NV_Rivera, to find links to our email newsletter. Happy writing. See you next week.